Welcome to tonight's episode of Profound States. We have a very special guest tonight. Her name is Aurora Belcea. Did I butcher your name?
No, that was it. You got it.
Okay, so she's originally from Romania, but she doesn't have a Dracula accent. Oh, that's Transylvania. I'm sorry, wrong country.
No, it's in Romania, actually. That's a region in Romania.
Ah, there we go.
Yeah.
She is a retired math teacher who has been practicing insight meditation, also called vipassana, for many years. She is a contactee with connections to ETs and extra-dimensional beings who support the idea of mutually beneficial and peaceful open contact with our star family. More recently, she has been channeling these beings to draw their portraits. She is interested in continuing to develop her intuitive artistic abilities, as well as connecting with our star families using various modalities of communication, such as telepathy and two-way radios. She has a GoFundMe site called Aurora's Intuitive Art Journey, and she is recently did an interview with Mr. Gray, Anik Almond. I don't know if I said that right, and that focused mostly on the Council of Eight, which what's your buddy's name who knows the Council of Eight that everybody knows?
Kevin Briggs.
Kevin Briggs.
Yeah.
I interviewed Kevin Briggs. Sorry, I didn't remember his name off the top of my head. I interviewed Kevin Briggs not terribly long ago. And Kevin, I apologize for forgetting your name momentarily. And they both, Kevin Briggs and Aurora, both have a connection to what's called the Council of Eight. And that's what Anik focused on in his recent interview of Aurora. So welcome to the show tonight, Aurora.
Oh, it's so great to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
So tell us the elevator version of who you are.
So, I was born in Romania, and I am not aware of any memories of contact with ETs or anything specific, in that nature. However, I do remember feeling like I was being watched all the time. I was afraid to fall asleep. I had to fall asleep with my back to the wall. And I remember I could speak in a made-up language at the time, is what I thought of it. And it turned out later on, I realized that it was light language, but that was many, many decades after that. So I was a kind of an odd child, I guess. I really couldn't make friends very well.
So what age were you when you very first spoke the light language?
Oh my goodness, I was in elementary school. I want to say maybe 6th or 7th grade.
Oh, so you were like 12 or 13.
Yeah. Oh, no, even younger than that, maybe 10.
Okay.
Yeah, 10. Yeah, around 10 years old. It was before puberty, that's for sure. So I was probably around 10 or 11.
And if you can recall the first time, can you recall the very first time you spoke it?
Yeah, actually I can. What I did is I would stand in front of the mirror, and I would literally have this dialogue with myself. And in my mind, I was sharing information. I had no idea what I was saying. It just felt good to make those sounds. And it was very joyful. It was a lot of fun. And then, go ahead.
The very first time you did it, the very first time,
mm-hmm.
Do you remember what you were doing just prior to beginning the
No. I really don't.
You were just vocalizing.
Yeah. And all of a sudden I got this idea, ooh, let's do this. Let's get in front of the mirror and start just talking. It was just like an impulse.
So did the light language come out at the very beginning of your vocalization, or did it?
Yeah, no, it started at the very beginning. I was making these it sounded like speech, but it was not words that I could translate or that had any specific meaning the way that words do. It was just a speech in another language.
So so you were like 10 or 11 when this started,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So where were you physically at the time?
I was in Romania. I remember I was living with my parents and my younger brother. And I was, I didn't have very many friends. So if you're asking me, you were asking me what was I doing right before that, chances are I was in my room probably reading a book because I spent a lot of my time by myself reading. I really didn't enjoy. I didn't understand some of the things that the other kids enjoyed when they played together. The cruelty part, I never really did get that.
Yeah,
So
I can understand that part.
yeah, yeah. So I spent a lot of time alone, and I just basically read. I read a lot. Yeah, I had my own little library, and I would read fiction, nonfiction, you name it,
So
anything I could get my hands on.
how long did you, okay, so let me step back for a second. So when did you first come to the conclusion that it was a light language? How did you do that?
Oh, wow. That was, I would say, last year.
Really?
Yeah, really, because I watched an interview with Mary Rodwell. She did an interview with some healers who were also vocalizing while they were healing people, energy healers. And I was like, holy cow, that sounds like what I was doing. And so, she mentioned that that was light language. So I started to look into it a little more, and I found other people, on YouTube. There were quite a few people who record themselves and share their light language. And it was like, yeah, this is it. This is exactly what I was doing.
Yeah, I've interviewed some of those people on my podcast.
Yeah.
So is doing the light language, is that the very first unusual thing that ever happened to you, or did anything happen before that even?
That's the thing that I remember happening. That was the first unusual, out of the ordinary thing that I did. That was the beginning of it.
So you still do it today?
Light language, you know what? I tried and I explored it a little bit, but I don't.
Have you lost it?
It's not that I've lost it. It no longer satisfies my ability to express myself in the way that drawing does.
So you've just gone on to other.
Yeah, I found another way.
Focuses.
Right, I found another way to share that same, I guess, idea, concept.
Well, maybe in the next time you do a drawing, you could consider finding a digital recorder, start the drawing, and then try to do the light language while you're doing.
I like that. I like that. That's a great idea, actually. I love it.
Might enjoy it, since you never know.
Yeah, yeah. I've written it lately. I've written in light language, and I sent it to Mary Rodwell, actually.
What did she say?
She said that, yeah, it looks like light language, and it looks like some of the other script that some of the people that she knows. It looks very similar to other script that she has seen. So that was very encouraging.
So what was the next interesting thing that happened to you in your life after the light language?
Honestly, not much happened in terms of, anything out of the ordinary, like, paranormal or ET related. Like I said, I had this constant feeling I was being watched, although I couldn't tell you who was watching me.
You talking about in Romania as a kid? Or you talking
as a kid? Yeah, I felt like I was constantly being watched. I was afraid that somebody was always behind me. That was a sense that I got. There's somebody always behind me. And I remember walking home from school. At one point, it was dark. I was coming home from school from some activity that we did, and I just could not shake this feeling that there was somebody walking behind me, and it just terrified me because I couldn't see anyone. So I remember I ran as fast as I could, and I, went upstairs and, where we lived on the third floor. And I didn't tell my parents anything because I, for some reason, assumed they were going to tell me it was my own imagination. And I really didn't know what it was. I wasn't, since I couldn't see anything per se. But that was pretty much my childhood through my adolescence. When I was in 8th grade, I was 13. My father ran away from Romania to France. He was a computer programmer in Romania, and he was very valuable for the government. So anyway, they sent him to Paris, France to learn some things and then bring him back to Romania. Well, he never came back. When my mom and I went to the airport to pick him up, he was supposed to be on the plane and he wasn't on the plane, and nobody knew where he was. So that was somewhat traumatic because we didn't hear from him for about 3 months, and we thought, somebody killed him. He's lying in a ditch someplace in Paris. But eventually we did hear from him. And after over a year or so, my mom and my brother and I left Romania and we joined him in France, where we stayed for almost a year, and then we moved to the United States. We moved to New Jersey. But I'm in Florida now. What's that?
Who are you talking about now? Your uncle?
This was my dad.
Your dad?
Yeah, my dad. And then,
what did your dad do at the time?
He was a computer programmer. Yeah, he's retired now, but he was a computer programmer. So this was back in the, late 70s, early 80s when things were first starting up.
So do you know what language he programmed in?
Oh my goodness. I think, if I remember right, it was Fortran at the time. I remember he taught me BASIC. I mean, it was right at the beginning when they still had the punch cards.
Right. I was there. So
yeah.
Your son is following in your dad's footsteps.
They're very much alike, actually. Very much alike in many, many ways. Personality-wise.
Is your father still alive?
My father, yeah. Yeah, he actually lives with my mom about, 45 minutes away from where I live, less than that.
Okay, so going from after the light language and between there and your discovery of the Council of Eight, did anything interesting happen to you in that?
Not that I can remember. I mean, I had some personal moments of awakening when I was in my mid-20s because I had sort of veered into the darkness and managed to find my way back into the light. But nothing. Well, I ended up in a crisis center because I put a gun to my head. Basically, I was doing drugs. I stopped doing drugs cold turkey, and the depression hit really hard. I was smoking pot and doing speed, crystal meth. So it was not anything like really super heavy like heroin.
How long did you smoke pot for in your life?
Oh my gosh, it was only 2 years.
Okay, and how long did you do the crystal?
The same. It was only 2 years. It was during a relationship that I had with this guy who was doing this kind of stuff. So I figured. So
you just got into it because of your relationship.
Yeah, exactly.
So
but then I realized that was not what I wanted to do with my life. I wasn't accomplishing anything, so I quit.
So did you quit before you broke up with him? Or?
Oh, no. I quit and broke up with him about the same time. Which was very difficult, and that's why depression hit me really, really hard. And I put a gun to my head. So I ended up in a crisis center. And interestingly enough, while I was there, they put me on medication and so on. But it felt, for the 2 weeks that I was there, it almost felt like I was in a separate pocket of reality where time for me was not passing. It was passing for everybody else. But for me, it was not passing. And I was in the state where I had to decide if I wanted to continue my life from the point where I had left off, or if I wanted to start over. And I actually believed when I was there that I did have that choice. So I'm not sure if I pulled the trigger and, just the memory of it, of what had happened, because it wasn't my time, I suppose. I had to choose. I had to decide, did I really, really, really want to end it right then and there, or, start over, or did I want to continue? And it was very strange. I'd never since then experienced that. It lasted for days. At that point, I started to basically hear what people thought, more so than I did when I was younger. I was always very sensitive, and I was confused when, people would always say things that they didn't really mean. That was
you're saying that when you were locked up. How long
Yeah.
were you locked up?
Oh, it was just a crisis center. I mean, there were other patients, there were clients, I guess you could call them. We cooked our own food. I mean, there was somebody who supervised us, but we
How
cleaned
long were you there?
about 2 weeks.
Okay, so not very long.
No, but we had intensive therapy with a psychologist twice a day and group therapy 3 times a day.
And where was this?
It was intense. It was in California when I lived there.
And where in California?
San Diego.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
that was odd. That was really a very odd experience. And I remember asking one of the nurses what was happening to me because I was confused. You know, these all of a sudden I had these abilities that I never had before. I
you mean to hear people's thoughts?
Yeah, I could hear people's thoughts. I knew what they meant because frequently when we speak, we don't even realize that we hold back so much more information than we actually verbalize for the sake of, you know, maintaining, I guess, or for the sake of manners. Let's just simplify it that way. But our thoughts,
fit in.
Yeah, you know, it's things that are not socially acceptable. We don't verbalize, but we still think those things. So I was starting to pick up on that, and that was a little weird.
You were picking up on what people were holding back.
Yeah, I could tell that they were watching me very closely, and they were somewhat concerned that, you know, I was telling them I can hear what you're thinking, and I would tell them what they were thinking, and they were like, whoa, a little weirded out. And so I asked one of the nurses what was happening to me, and her reply was, "You are waking up," which seems like a very odd statement coming from a mental health professional. So,
well, okay, so let's back up for a second. So my guess is that, well, okay, so if you think about mental health professionals historically, they're not that great of people, but I think today, based on my own personal experience with them, which I've had some, I think they've improved quite a bit compared to what they used to be.
Yeah.
I think the rules for mental health facilities have improved. They're still based on profit. So if they're not getting money from somebody to house you, either your insurance company or your family or you, you wonder how are they gonna, feed you and have you there if they're not making money.
Yeah, I was unemployed, so the state of California paid for my medication, paid for the whole thing, and I'm very grateful for that.
So it was the state that paid for it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was unemployed. I was homeless at that point because I left the guy I was with. He owned the condo we lived in.
So do you think that the fact that you were only there for 2 weeks was because you only needed it for 2 weeks, or because the California stopped paying for it after 2 weeks?
The stay there was limited to 2 weeks. Everybody left after 2 weeks.
Oh, so it was preset.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you got out of the place, did you continue hearing people's thoughts?
No, actually. What was interesting is they put me on a different medication, and I think it was Haldol.
So you were on medication during those 2 weeks?
I was on imipramine during the 2 weeks that I was there. And as I started to tell them that I'm having these experiences that are out of the ordinary, they changed my medication. The last couple of days that I was there, they put me on Haldol, and that just numbed me out. I guess, comfortably numb, like Pink Floyd says. That was the state that I was in. And no, I could not hear anybody else's thoughts anymore. And everything seemed very heavy all of a sudden. And just uncomfortable. So
do you think the imipramine helped you?
I think so.
Hear people's thoughts?
I think it was a combination of things. I lost about 10 pounds during the week that I was there, which was incredible. I don't know how that happened. And I suspect that some of the drugs that I had taken were probably stored in my fatty tissue, because I wasn't large to begin with. And so losing 10 pounds pretty much wiped out my I guess, fatty reserve. So I suspect it was a combination of things.
So how did you lose the weight when you were in there?
I'm not sure. I really am not sure. I remember not being very hungry.
So you just ate less?
Yeah, but I mean, I was skin and bones when I left there. My parents came to visit me, and we took a picture together. And I looked at the picture and was like, "Holy cow!" Yeah, it's like there's thin and there's anorexic and almost dead. So yeah, you could see my collarbones sticking out and my cheeks, and yeah, I was scared.
So do you consider that 2 weeks to be a positive or negative experience?
Positive, absolutely positive.
Okay.
Because I decided that I was going to keep going. And so
it gave you the will or the desire or the focus to continue your life.
It was my choice to continue with this life. And so for the first time, I actually felt empowered, self-empowered. It was my choice to stay. So I was going to make the best of it. And that really helped. That really helped moving forward. I mean, I came out of there, like I said, I was homeless. I stayed with friends, and I immediately applied for unemployment. And I got a job at the postal service, which is kind of crazy if you think about it, because there's the joke going around about people going postal. And so, it was like, okay.
How long did you work at the postal service?
Oh my goodness, probably 3 years. I started out as a clerk, lowest on the totem pole, and I ended up leaving when I was a mail carrier.
So my wife,
because I wanted to go back to college and finish my degree.
wife worked for the post office a number of times, but she was sexually harassed, and her boss wouldn't do anything about it. Would not do anything about it.
I had that same experience. That's one of the reasons I left.
She ended up quitting because they wouldn't protect her.
Yeah.
So
she's not alone.
So you understand what I'm talking about, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely, I do.
Okay, so let's move forward to your, I guess the next experience would be the Council of Eight stuff, correct?
Yes, actually it was. So fast forward 15, 20 years. This is my experience with the Council of Eights happened in 2015. It was after I was in a car accident that left me disabled. I couldn't work anymore. I couldn't teach anymore. And everything in my life pretty much got turned upside down. And when I used to say that my life was turned upside down by that accident, but now I see that it was turned right side up, in a sense, really. But in any case, I had been meditating at that point for a number of years. And because I was so down on myself after the car accident, I was really sick. I was in a lot of physical pain. I was eventually diagnosed with multiple sclerosis.
Hold on, stop for a second. Back up. Sure. Car accident, when and how and what, and go through that.
Yeah, I was a teacher at the time, and I left school. It was the end of the day. I was on my way to pick up my son from elementary school. He had a doctor appointment that afternoon. So I'm stopped at a red light, and I have my hand like this, my elbows resting on the rolled down window. It had been a long day. I was a little tired and worried about my kids. So I'm just kind of relaxing there like this, and I can see in my driver's side mirror this car coming too fast. And I knew that he didn't have enough time to stop. But I didn't have enough time to straighten myself back up. So it hit me when I was like this.
Which direction was he coming from?
Behind me. He rear-ended me pretty hard.
Okay.
Yeah, total.
How fast do you think he was going when he hit you?
35, 40 miles an hour.
So, but he was going fast originally and hit the brakes. Is that the deal?
I suppose he eventually hit the brakes, but he did not. I don't think he estimated how quickly he was going to come up on my car. He was driving with an expired learner's permit. This was a student at the school where I worked. Ah. And he had a passenger, another kid. So, he was not obviously an experienced driver, and it was not intentional. I think I'm not sure what happened with him.
So you had the accident, and what happened to you as a result of the accident?
I ended up having 2 surgeries on my neck. They fused a vertebrae, they replaced another. The pain never really did subside, and so I kept hoping I was going to get better after the surgeries, but I didn't. I kept getting worse. So we started, I started to try to figure out what was wrong with me. And, I went to a number of different doctors. They, wrote me off as fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, but there was more to it than that. And eventually I found a neurologist who diagnosed me with multiple sclerosis. And I was in a wheelchair for a while. We lived in a 2-story house and we had to move because I kept falling down the stairs. So now we live in a condo. So it was pretty bad. I'm not in a wheelchair anymore. And I think a lot of it has to do with the contacts that started coming forward. I think they've always been there, but they started coming forward in 2015.
So when did the MS first start affecting you in your life?
The car accident triggered something that had already been there, because MS takes a long time to really diagnose. I suspect, and this is what the doctor said, that I had it before my car accident. But that accident was so stressful on my physical body and emotionally as well that my body just couldn't take it anymore. And it just broke down and MS took over.
So how does the MS affect you?
Today, not as much as it used to. I get tired when we go to an amusement park. I need a wheelchair because I can't walk the whole day. So I get tired pretty easily.
So how did it used to affect you?
Oh my goodness, I needed a walker to go from place to place, or a cane.
What do you mean inside your apartment?
Oh yeah, I had to hang on to the walls. It was pretty severe. It was really pretty severe.
Now you're okay, except
I get tired and I can't last all day on my feet.
You almost sound like my wife, who's had 2 strokes. She can actually outwalk me sometimes when we're walking on the trail, but a lot of times she, especially most recently, she can't keep up with me at all on the trails, and I have to slow down to let her keep up. But at the end of a day, her energy runs out.
Yep, same here.
And so she can fall down at any time, but especially at the end of the day after energy has run out. But if I help her get up, oddly enough, she can get around without a walker or anything, moving forward from there, even though she's run out of energy. She can't stand up to get up, but once I help her up, then she's got no problems getting around without the walker, without any help of any kind, just the getting up part. And so how does it work with you?
Well, I can't keep up with my husband and my kids anymore. They do have to slow down.
Walking, you mean walking?
Yeah. Okay. I can't keep up with them. I do walk my dog though. I have a 150-pound St. Bernard Newfoundland mix that minds me very well.
What's
and
his
I go
name?
for walks. His name is Teddy, like a teddy bear.
So when you walk Teddy,
he's well trained. He used to be my service dog. He's retired now. He's 8.5.
So you can't keep up with your husband and your kid, but you do okay. Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I can walk without a cane or a walker, which is spectacular for me. It's a miracle. It really is. It's miraculous for me.
How far can you walk like that?
Well, let's see. I walk Teddy probably about half a mile every day. Sometimes longer. It depends on where he wants to go. But we walk slowly. Right. And we stop every now and then because he's 8.5, so he's not a puppy anymore, and we kind of take care of each other at this point. He used to help me get up, and now I help him.
What would happen if you tried to lengthen your walk beyond?
I am stubborn enough to walk myself literally into the ground until I fall down. And that would probably happen. I haven't pushed myself hard enough to do that, but there is going to come a point where I'll either be in so much pain that I can't move, or I will literally run out of energy and have to lie down.
So when you get to the edge of your ability to walk, how does the pain, how do you experience the pain in your body?
Oh my goodness, there's pain throughout my body, and it comes in waves through my legs, from my feet. It goes up all the way through my body. It's almost like a wave of energy, but it's incredibly painful.
What all have you tried have you tried anything unusual to try to to improve your condition?
Meditation.
That's it.
Drugs don't work with this pain.
Have you tried anything else besides meditation?
Yes, actually. I'm kind of, skipping up ahead. After an experience that I had while I was at the meditation center, I got a download of some symbols. I started to be able to manipulate.
Where do you think the download came from? What do you think?
I know who it came from. It was from a mantis being who's on the Council of Eight.
Okay. And his name? His
name is Chica. He's my favorite.
So Chica gave you a download, and tell us about the download.
It was during meditation, and it felt like somebody dumped the entire contents of their computer into my head. And it looked...
And what amount of time?
Oh, gosh. Maybe 10, 15 minutes. I don't know, because when I meditate, it wasn't for the entire meditation period, but when I meditate, I lose track of time. I can't tell how long, but I suspect...
Chica gave you this download. No, continue. What was in the download?
It felt like symbols that looked a lot like Chinese or Japanese script, but they weren't. But they looked like that. They were not an alphabet. They were symbols that meant different things. They seemed to have consciousness within them. It wasn't just a bunch of script. It meant something. It carried energy. It carried meaning.
So they were living symbols.
Yeah.
Now, if you took yourself, I'm a hypnotherapist. If I regressed you to the moment you got that download and you were in the middle of that download.
Yeah.
Describe the download as if you were there right this moment.
It was exhilarating. There was a sense of love from this being, and support, and feeling safe and cherished by this being, as if I was the most important thing for that being in that moment. And the download was filled with energy. I mean, I had my eyes closed, so in my mind's eye, I could see these symbols coming down. It seemed like they were coming down through my crown chakras, the top of my head, into my mind. And that's where they rested to be accessed at a later time. It was a download that needed to be unpacked over a period of time, was the way that I understood it. And it came with just this exhilarating energy. It's like I'm receiving information. I don't know what it means, but it's important stuff. It's meaningful, it's special, and oh my goodness, I just feel like I'm on top of the world right now, getting this information because of what it'll bring in the future. And I felt valued. Us humans have a tendency to kind of lean towards feeling worthless a lot of the time, or at least maybe I should just speak for myself, but I felt valued, like I was important enough to be trusted with this information, and important enough to be able to wield this information at some point. And I did, get a teacher afterwards. And
what was the final result of the download, as far as how did it help you? What did you get out of it?
What I got out of it when I came home is all of a sudden I remembered that I can move things with my mind. I remembered that I could do that, and that I should be able to do that in this body. But for some reason, I couldn't in this physical body. And so I became very interested in exploring telekinesis. And I watched, videos on YouTube about these people who, that you take like a pin and you put a piece of foil on top of it and it spins. They call it a psi wheel. And they could spin it with their mind. And so I started practicing with this little side wheel, this, it's just a pin, really, it's just a little pin on a flat surface so that it sticks up and you put a little side wheel on it. And I started practicing with it, and it almost felt like, let's say like I lost my leg, okay? And I now have a prosthetic leg. I knew how to walk before I lost my leg, but now I have to learn how to walk again with this prosthetic attachment. That's how it felt. It's like I was remembering how to do something that I've always known how to do, but in this body that was actually limiting and limited. But I did it.
So you were able to move the pendulum.
It was mind-blowing. The first time I did it, I was like, holy cow, did I actually do that? It was amazing. It was amazing. And I could feel what was happening is I was able to manipulate the energy in my own body and somehow affect the way that my brain functioned, the brain waves and all of that. I mean, everything is energy, ultimately, frequency, vibrations, energy. So I was able to manipulate my brain waves in such a way that I could spin this little item. I mean, I can't move furniture across the room or anything spectacular like that, but I can spin this little thing. And eventually I got to the point where I put it under a glass jar. So there was no question that I was breathing on it or the air conditioning or a breeze or whatever. And I could move it under the glass jar. I still can, and I still practice. It's not easy. It takes a lot of focus and a lot of concentration. And I've seen people on YouTube who, I mean, I don't know, maybe they fake it, or maybe, I don't know, they have, their abilities are much more powerful than mine or skilled.
So
but I can do it.
Gave you a sense of value?
The download gave me a sense of value. The telekinesis did not give me a sense of value. It was a memory. It was retrieving something that I've always known how to do. I just forgot that I could do it in this body. So I remembered that I could do that and that I should be able to do that. And we are all able to do that, actually. It was like this awakening to the psychic or psionic or whatever word you want to use, abilities that are in every human being. It's like, wow, and we can all do this.
That download, was that the very first time you interacted with any of the Council of Eight?
No, actually.
So you missed over something that you forgot.
Yeah, I skipped ahead since.
So go to the very first time that you experienced.
It was after my car accident. I had quit meditating. I was depressed, and one morning I was sitting on the couch, just basically ready to just zonk out in front of Netflix, binge watch Netflix. And I got this nudge. It was like something was nudging me. Go meditate. Go sit in your meditation room and go meditate. I'm like, I don't really want to do it, but it kept persisting. And I finally got up and I went and I sat down in my meditation room, which was just a closet under the stairs with a cushion. And as soon as I closed my eyes, it was incredible. I had this feeling of overwhelming, of feeling loved, and it penetrated every molecule in my body. It's not like,
was Chica the one that did this to you?
No.
Okay.
It felt more human. It didn't feel human, but it felt more human. And I thought, my gosh, is this Jesus? I had no concept of ETs at the time, none whatsoever. And so the experience was my whole body was vibrating with unconditional love.
Oh, this is the healer.
No, it wasn't the healer. It was actually somebody from the Council of Eight. I didn't know it at the time, but Kevin helped me to figure it out. Then after this shower of love, telepathically, he said, this is not a punishment. This is not a punishment. And he was referring to the situation I was in. And and how did he know that that's where I was going with it? I felt like I was being punished. But he repeated that twice and emphasized it. Yeah, it was amazing. It's like he knew what was on my mind and came prepared ahead of time with what to tell me. This turned out to be Ort, ultimately.
Ort, okay.
Yeah, but after that, he also said, and I still don't understand what that means. It wasn't exactly words, but it was this feeling of the guy in charge is pleased with your progress. And I have no idea what that means, but he was referring to another being, a higher up being who, that was a sort of not his boss, but sort of a leader. He was, referred to a leadership figure. And that's when I realized that that was Ort referring to Ra. But I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know that until 10 years later.
So with all of your experiences with the Council of Eight, as vast as the universe is, obviously there has to be many councils of many different sizes.
Yep.
And I suspect you've come to understand a bigger picture that's beyond the Council of Eight.
Yeah.
So give us a glimpse of that part of your understanding.
So again, when I was at the meditation center, I go to these retreats every year, and they're about 10 days long. Sometimes they're 30 days, 20 days long, and meditate for about 10 hours a day. So it's intense. And I go into these very deep meditative states where I am able to remember. I was able to remember the contract that I made before I came into this life with the Council of Eight, to work with them towards this awakening process, to contribute to the awakening process that is going on right now.
So
I remember that.
When you remembered that, the moment you remember that, can you recall that moment at this moment?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely.
So give us a sense of your surroundings at the very moment you remembered. What was it you remembered again?
I remembered the meeting I had with the Council of Eight before I came into this life.
Okay, so
I'm lying in my bed.
Right.
Everybody gets a private room, so I'm alone in my bed. I'm lying down, and I meditate before I fall asleep. I always do that, even at home.
Is this during the 2 weeks?
This was, I think it was during a 10-day course. It was, yeah, it was during the 10 days
course
of meditation, vipassana meditation.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I said, I go every year. It's more like a retreat.
Oh, that's right.
Kind of
That's
course,
right.
Yeah.
Your yearly vipassana training.
Yes.
I got it now. Okay, go ahead.
And so I'm lying down and my eyes are closed and I'm meditating. And I'm doing that, I feel, in my mind's eye, this image begins to open up of this place that looked like someplace out in the cosmos, like the nebulas, the really beautiful pictures that the Hubble telescope takes that are colorful, purple and orange, and just a spacious place out in the cosmos. And in that location, I could feel that it was sort of like a central hub of a place to meet. I had the sense of like these tall buildings, these towers, but I couldn't see them very clearly. In fact, the image was as if I didn't have my glasses on. I couldn't see them very clearly, but I knew that was the Council of Eight. I recognized Ort first, and then I recognized Chica, and then Ra, and then the rest of them were there, but not as clear. And I remembered choosing to work with them. I remember choosing, the feeling of choosing and wanting to.
So your experiences with the Council of Eight don't start in this lifetime.
Correct.
They start in a different lifetime.
Yeah, and they go back even further. They go back, just to kind of give you an idea, I remembered a life when I was with Ra and I was Anunnaki. I remember that. And there are other lifetimes that I remember being an Anunnaki that it goes, I don't remember the whole lifetime, but I remember important things that happened that are relevant to me now.
How did you recall that lifetime?
Oh, the one with Ra? Oh, it was while I was drawing him. I was drawing his portrait.
So you got glimpses?
Yeah.
Mental or visual or both?
It was visual and emotional. Well, in my mind's eye is what I call visual. It's like I could see it in my mind's eye. It was a memory in the same way that you recognize a memory when you think about what you ate yesterday. You can visualize in your head. It was like that.
So tell us, we'll look at Ra here in a little while, but tell us about the Anunnaki from your personal perspective of anything you remember from that lifetime.
The one that stands out the most in my mind Ra was there, but his name was not Ra. I don't know what his name was there. I just recognized him as Ra, like his essence, his soul was as Ra. There was a group of us, actually. Some of them are people that I know today. Kevin is one of them, Kevin Briggs. He was there. But I remember I was part of this hybridization.
So you had a previous life with Kevin.
Oh, yeah. Several, actually, that I remembered.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, he doesn't remember them. And the conclusion that I came to is that perhaps it's not relevant for him to remember them in this lifetime. There is an infinite number of possibilities of lives that we've had. If we were to remember all of that, it would be so chaotic. So my understanding is that, at least for me, I remember the things that are relevant for me in this lifetime.
Well, go ahead through your description of the Anunnaki. Continue.
I remembered being involved with the hybridization program of the bipedal beings that were here when the Anunnaki arrived
on Earth.
That whole story. There were, the process of trying to decide what to do because the home planet was in trouble. And there was a sense of urgency that we have to do something, but there was also, it was very conflicted. We could do something, but should we do it? It was, crossing the line into things that were considered not okay and immoral. And so the way we justified it was with, we're going to love these beings. Ultimately, that was the decision. The beings that we're going to create, we're going to love them. We're going to be like, their guardians, their parents in a sense. And I remember carrying one of the hybridized fetuses because the genetic manipulation and all of that happened outside of the body. There was technology that manipulated DNA and so on. And I don't remember any of the details. And I don't know that I ever knew how that worked. But I do remember, I distinctly remember that I was pregnant with this. I had a baby in my belly that I knew was not mine at all. In other words, there was Anunnaki, selected Anunnaki genes and I don't know how they put it together, but it was a cocktail of genes that created this being that I was carrying in my belly. They didn't grow in vats of fluid. They actually, the first of them were born by there was a number of us who were carrying these babies. And so I remember when the baby was born, this feeling of maternal love, it was not a creature that we were going to use for labor. This was my baby. And it was a unique baby, and it was special because it was a brand new species that we created, and it was important. There was so much compassion involved with that, and it breaks my heart when I hear people talk about the Anunnaki, how they were, they created us. By the way we are now is nothing like the way things were back then. We've been altered so many different times by so many other civilizations. But in any case, it breaks my heart when I hear people be so hateful towards the Anunnaki for what they did, where it was all out of love. It was out of necessity as well. I mean, we really needed to find a solution, but it was not back because we wanted to create a worker class. That was not the attitude. We were going to create helpers that we were going to work with and protect. And these were going to be our children, in a sense. We had a tremendous sense of responsibility for their well-being. And that's what I remember from that lifetime. It was that bit of this intense feeling of love and awe at creating something that was brand new, and respect that came along with it. It's really nothing in the way that it's being described in some of these videos that I've seen.
So what can you describe what you look like, or what they as a species in general look like compared to us now? How they were different? I mean, exactly.
The Anunnaki?
Yes.
What I remember how I felt as an Anunnaki. And I felt that I could do anything. The there was a sense of no limit to what I could do or we could do as a group. It was, like one thing that I remember when I was little that I forgot to mention it. This was a weird thing is, as I was getting older, I began to feel that I was no longer interfacing with my environment. I could only see through my eyes now. I could only hear through my ears. I could only feel through my skin. And so everything became very compartmentalized in terms of my senses, where as an Anunnaki, I interfaced with my entire environment. I couldn't just see through my eyes or hear through my ears. It was not compartmentalized. My perception of my environment, I was immersed within the environment as if I was the environment in a sense. The environment was me. There was not this really abrupt sense of separation. Yes, I was my own individual, and so were other people. But at the same time, there was the sense of being the environment, like the environment somehow being an extension of me.
So do you remember how the species back then looked like in reference to humans now? Were they taller, or were they reptilian or insectoid?
No. To me, I mean, I felt different than I feel as a human. There's no doubt about it. But it was definitely not reptilian. I can tell you that much. At least I wasn't reptilian, and I don't remember having anyone else around me who felt reptilian. We felt humanoid. The skin was kind of it was a different color, and it had a different texture to it. It was like I want to say it was yellow, but not like bright yellow. And I don't want to say tan, because it wasn't tan either. Like, people from the Middle East, they have that rich, darker color. It wasn't that. It was lighter than that, and it was kind of yellow-ish in color. It was more yellow than anything else. It actually had a tint of yellow. Not like, sometimes we say, or at least that used to be a stereotype, that Asian people have yellow skin. It was actually, you could see the yellow in it. And we were taller and larger than other things that were around us. Although I do remember the workers, I don't remember their name. They were massive. They were huge in stature. They actually felt bigger than me, but that's just my interpretation.
Ort was the first of the council that you encountered in this lifetime.
Yes, and it was during 10 years ago, whenever that was, during meditation, and I was at home.
So who's the second person you encountered?
The second person I encountered was Chica. And that actually happened a couple of years ago when I was out on my balcony here watering my plants, minding my own business, listening to music. And suddenly, in my mind's eye, very clearly appeared this image of a praying mantis, the head of a praying mantis with the big eyes, and then the mandibles were opened as if it was going to bite me. But with this image came this incredible sense of love. It was so powerful. It was like it made me weak in the knees. And I know it wasn't my imagination, because I would never have associated that image of an insect looking like it was going to bite me with this emotion. I would have never put those two together in my mind, spontaneously. So I know that was him. And what followed was intense. I got the sense that my consciousness, I got to understand how infinite my consciousness is. And I began to perceive everything around me as myself. In other words, the dog was me as a dog. The plant was me as a plant. This bug was me as this bug. I was actually that being, as well as looking at that being, as if I was in two places at once. But I was not in two places at once. I was in an infinite number of places at once. I was creation.
And how long did that experience last?
That lasted probably 20, 30 minutes. It got so overwhelming that I finally came inside and I went to my husband and I gave him a hug and he's like, whoa, what is this out of the blue? I mean, I was filled with this love for all creation and it was incredible. And I told him, I don't know what's happening to me. It's like, am I getting enlightened? I don't know what's going on. And I explained to him how I felt. And as I started to verbalize it and express it in linear terms, it faded away. Because this was an experience that really did not feel linear at all. It was just all encompassing. Everything is happening all at once. Everything exists all at once. And I am everything, all of it. It was amazing.
So Ort was the first, Chica was the second, and who was the third?
You know, as I started drawing them, Zark would have been the third, because I didn't even realize that I was drawing somebody from the Council of Eight when I started drawing his portrait. It was, I was having a rough day and I decided I was just going to start drawing because it always made me feel better. And I drew this face of a gray, a typical gray, you know, and I drew it with sunglasses. And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. I'm going to erase the sunglasses. And then all of a sudden, in my mind, this very clear, don't erase the sunglasses, they make me look cool. And so that's how Zark introduced himself. And it just kind of went from there. And later I found out he's a mathematician, so we had math in common, so I can see, you know, why we hit it off in that way. But he has an amazing sense of humor. He made me laugh that day.
Okay, so let's change our focus a little bit. Let's.
I'm kind of going all over the place here because there's other things that have happened to me that are mind-blowing.
Doing exactly what I'm asking you to do, which is
good.
fun. So, but instead of going through them linearly, I mean, we can continue that. Let's go through each one of them, period, and then we can return to the linear portion. Okay, so let me share my screen and we will go from there. And we'll do it by your first experience with each one, regardless of which. Okay.
Which one comes up?
Regardless of which order it's in.
Sure. Now, I need to like sort of explain that I never considered myself an artist. I mean, the extent of my art skills was, you know, drawing stick figures. That was it. And it was after a C5 that I went to at a friend's house who is an artist. You know, he gave me a little tour of his house and I went into his art studio and there was something in his art studio that just kind of like smacked me in the forehead, it seemed. And we had some sightings that evening, but after I came home from that, I started to have this urge to draw ETs. And I was very intimidated because I didn't think that I could. All I could draw was stick figures, but I started drawing and incredible things started showing up. And I could not believe that I was drawing what I was seeing on the paper.
Can you see Arla?
I cannot.
Okay, so I'm sharing and I'm hoping our audience can see her.
Well, if it's recording on your computer, then I'm sure.
Even if they can't, I can always insert it here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'll just assume they can see her, and if it turns out they cannot, I'll insert her so they can see her anyway. So Arla.
Yes.
We're just going to do this in alphabetical order. So tell me about your first experience with Arla.
I only had one experience with Arla. She was actually the last one that I drew of the Council of Eight. And it was my interaction with her while I was drawing her. That's the only experience that I've had with her that I can remember. I suspect there's stuff in my mind that I maybe not ready to remember, but in any case, while I was drawing her, I really had a difficult time connecting with her. And it was unusual because everybody else seemed to be a little bit easier to get a hold of. But what I had to do is, Kevin actually had another portrait of her that somebody else had drawn, and I printed that out and I started tracing the face on that portrait in order to try to connect with her, because I figured, this is what she looks like, so maybe I can connect to her this way. And as I was doing this, I realized that the reason I couldn't feel her is because the upper level of my frequency barely reached her lowest. So there was very little overlap. And I needed, the bigger the overlap, the more clear and more intense the interaction is, because we cannot experience what we're not the vibration of. And I think that applies to everybody. And so I could not experience her very clearly because I only had like the sliver of overlap. So I realized,
that's right. The upper part of your range is the lower part.
Yeah. So I realized that I had to meditate and really, really center myself and, get in this vibration of, higher vibrations of gratitude and compassionate love and all of these other things that raise our frequency. And that's what I had to do to connect with her, and then to begin, there she is. And then to begin to recognize her frequency, because I needed to recognize her frequency so that I could find her, and sort of like breadcrumbs, I guess, in a sense. And so once I got a clearer picture of her, that's when I started to draw her, this image that you're looking at right here. And some of the information that I included in this drawing actually came from Kevin. I don't see these beings in the way that Kevin does. He told me that she has, she disappeared, that she has translucent hair. So I try to do that in my drawing, but I didn't see her. I felt her. Most of the beings that I've drawn don't, the image that you see is not necessarily how these beings look, although Kevin has confirmed that I did pick up on some of their physical traits. I draw what I feel. So I am trying to translate these emotions and these insights and these intuitive hits into something visual. And so I know that what I'm drawing is accurate because, this is somebody else. This is Arna.
Yeah, I'm switching.
Okay. So Arna is a blue avian, and she was a lot easier to connect with. She is a healer, and she's really, really very empathetic. And I think that's probably why, she was able to reach out to me a little bit more than Arla did. But initially, I had drawn her with her beak going all the way up to her forehead. Right, it ended sort of like a duck's beak right between her eyes. And when I was meditating one day, she came and told me in no uncertain terms that is not what her beak looks like. And she showed me that it's barely, it's just like a mouth, like we have a mouth, but instead of lips, she has these yellow protrusions that look like a beak. And so I had to go back to the drawing and fix it. And you can kind of see that there's a slightly different shade of blue right above, on the part of her face that's in between her eyes, I guess where her nose would be, where her, the center part is sort of more like turquoise because I had to cover up the orange that was there. And that was not easy. But, I think the difference in shading, gives it a little bit more depth. But she came across as a very no nonsense, kind of a chic French vibe to her.
So what does she do?
She's a healer. She's a healer, and she's very, very empathetic. Very empathetic.
Gave you some healing?
You know what? I think I got healing from a number of beings on the Council of Eight, and I didn't really realize it until recently when somebody asked me, how has your health been affected since you met the Council of Eight? And I would have to say that from that point forward, when Ort came to me in my meditation room, my health started improving gradually. I changed medications. I was finally put on a medication that actually started working for me, and that is what took me out of the wheelchair. But, medications for MS are not supposed to repair damage. They're just supposed to slow it down. But I got out of a wheelchair, so that to me demonstrates that damage was repaired. And no MS medication does that. So I know they had a hand in it. And I know that Arna did, and also other beings. And that is Chica. And that's about as close as I could get to the image that I saw on the day that he popped in my head while I was watering my plants and just gave me this mind-blowing experience. He's my favorite. He really is. I have...
Remind us about
this is Chica, yeah. I have the mantis beings and
oh, this is the one that gave you the love.
Yeah, this one. And I know it doesn't look like it, but there is a tremendous amount of compassionate love and wisdom and caring that comes from this being that I perceive, and I have perceived actually on a number of occasions. That wasn't the only time that Chica came. He also came when I was at a 30-day meditation course, and it was during the time I was in meditation I could feel a panic attack rising. And I was just about ready to get up to take a break, and before I could, I heard this, "I gotcha," telepathically. And as if somebody switched, flipped a switch, the panic turned to intense, compassionate love. And Chica did that. It's like he popped in, and I'm not sure what he did, how he rewired my brain, but he made it happen. Oh, this is Dee. She is Ort's partner, or wife, I guess. She came in right after I finished Zark's portrait, and I was getting ready to draw Ort, actually, and she popped in and said he can wait his turn. She's very pragmatic. He's very compassionate, emotional, and just overflowing with, love and caring, and very emotional. Ort is very emotional. She's very, very pragmatic and very practical. Now, not to say that she's mean or anything. She's very sweet, has a really high frequency, insisted that I draw Arcturus, the constellation Arcturus, in her portrait. And some people have commented that it actually looks like light language.
So she's Arcturian.
Yeah, she's Ort's
partner.
Yeah.
What is her job in the scheme of things?
She's a teacher, from what I understand. She seemed to be pressed for time when I interacted with her. And it was, again, the only experience that I had with her was when I drew her. When I drew her portrait, she popped in, said, "You know what, I'm going to do this now. I have the time now and the inclination, so let's do this now." And that's what she came to be before I had a chance to draw Ort.
Okay, so let's go with Ort.
Yes, this is actually not the first portrait that I drew of him. I had started drawing something different, and he wouldn't pose. It's like I couldn't get a hold of him to feel him so that I could communicate what he felt like to me. And he suggested that I watch some videos on YouTube to learn how to draw faces more realistically. And I didn't want to do that because I was very intimidated by the idea of trying to draw something realistic. But I eventually gave in. And once I started doing that, he popped in and I could feel him. Some people have commented that he looks like Ashtar. And I replied with, maybe Ashtar looks like him. Yeah, I love the little hearts. His eyes capture how he feels to me. And
so it's an Arcturian.
Yes, he's an Arcturian.
He's partner.
Yeah, he feels fresh and crisp and loving, compassionate.
What does he do as an Arcturian?
He's a teacher.
He's another. They're both teachers.
They're both teachers, yeah. And I have learned a number of things from him that I didn't even realize he was the one teaching me.
What did he teach you?
He taught me how to understand that time does not exist. The experience of time exists, but time does not exist. Everything happens all at once. He also taught me how to, there was this, it was almost like a classroom that I was in. Sometimes when I meditated, I would go to this place that felt like I was on a large ship, and I was with an Arcturian who was teaching me how to manage and manipulate the energies that were coming towards Earth so that they would be a more gradual transition as opposed to just blasting on the surface and driving everybody nuts. We were sort of trying to mediate how, the energy flow that was approaching our planet. And I eventually realized that that was Ort. That was the Arcturian who was teaching me. And this is Ra. Ra was tremendous. I had no idea how I was going to capture him on a flat piece of paper.
So he's the head of the.
He is the leader of the Council of Eight, yeah. And so.
So what is his job besides being the leader? What else does he do?
He guides. He has, as far as open contact is concerned, or the reveal, as the Council of Eight refers to it, is he guides. He has the bigger picture more so than anyone else. And he sort of guides what's happening in an indirect way. I don't really know exactly how to explain it because he's no longer in physical form. He doesn't need to incarnate in physical form. So he is just a ball of energy, which is part of the reason why I had such a hard time really putting a figure to him, a face. And that energy guides, almost like it navigates along a timeline that includes mutually beneficial open contact with our star families. He's more like he's influencing the flow of things towards that timeline that we are co-creating actually as a group. And I'm not just referring to the Council of Eight, I'm referring to individuals who have also had experiences with the Council of Eight that I know of. We're sort of gathering together. It's interesting. Most of us are in Florida, of all places. So that's, I'm sure, not by coincidence. And this is Shiva, actually. And you're not showing all of her. The bottom part is cut off for some reason. Is that what uploaded, I guess?
Hold on.
Yeah, no, I think there's more to her. There's a bottom. Oh, there we go. She is an angelic being, and she introduced herself much later to Kevin and the rest of us as being Ra's counterpart. And she is a healer. Normally, when I draw a being, they come with one message for one specific individual. When I drew her, she came with messages for a number of different people, and that experience was truly multidimensional. I had to take a break because she totally spread my bandwidth to places where I never saw that I could go. There's a lot of symbolism in this drawing. I'm just going to tell you about one of them. The spots on her scarf that's wrapped around her body that kind of looks like a whale tail. Those spots are actually the one star. It's Sirius. Simultaneously Sirius A and Sirius B, depending on who you are looking at this drawing. But it's multiple versions of Sirius, and that's why there's so many of them, multiple versions from multiple realities, but it's the same star in an infinite number of versions of itself, because she is a multidimensional being. She operates simultaneously on many, many levels. And that is actually how she came across in this drawing.
So what is she, and how does she relate to the Council of Eight? What is she?
She's a healer. She's a tremendous healer. She has appeared to two of the members of the Council of Eight. Like, they've actually seen her with their physical eyes. And I know her just by perceiving her energy, and from telepathic communications that I've had with her, I have felt her healing touch, and it's really tremendous. And I know that she helped. My son was supposed to have surgery to have a lump removed just 2 days ago. Actually, yesterday was Thursday. He was supposed to have surgery yesterday. From the time we met with the surgeon to the surgery time, the lump shrunk from the size of a golf ball to the size of a bean. And it wasn't supposed to do that. We were going to take it out and do a biopsy, and it was kind of a scary thing. But I know that she helped out with that. And it wasn't just her, there were others. I had asked for help for him. And this was a 15-year-old we were talking about earlier who's interested in computers and robotics. So I know she helped out with that, and he doesn't need the surgery. We're just going to keep an eye on him, and I'm sure it will completely vanish all on its own. It was pretty miraculous.
So we've done everybody except...
We haven't seen Zark, the Greys. We haven't seen the 2 Greys.
Okay, so...
Zark and Targ.
I think we just got Zark. Here we go.
Yeah, if you have Targ, you'll see that the rainbow motif appears in both of them, which is interesting. Which is kind of how I know that, I got in touch with 2 gray beings. So Zark is the first one that I drew, and I started drawing his face with the sunglasses, and he said, "Oh, don't erase them, they make me look cool." And as I was a little startled by that comment that came telepathically very, very clearly. And then this image popped in my head of him wearing this beanie hat, this rainbow beanie hat backwards, and just looking so goofy and meaning to look goofy. Now, what happens with telepathic communication, I actually call it telempathic communication because it's not just words. You actually get to feel the emotions that come from this being. So if he thinks that something is funny, on top of my feeling, my own belief, my own funniness, I also experience how he perceives it as funny. And that makes it doubly funny. And so that's my experience with him.
So you understand how us humans tend to look at Greys as being emotionless, correct?
Yes, and I was surprised that he had a sense of humor. And I didn't know. I hadn't known from Kevin. I didn't really know anything about him. And when I told Kevin that Zark has a sense of humor, he confirmed that. He played some practical jokes on his wife. He has a few stories about that. So that's another confirmation that I got that I really did communicate or connect with Zark. I don't actually know what he looks like. I think his chin is a little more slender than what I have in this drawing. But this was the first drawing that I did. And so, my drawing skills really were very, I didn't have a large frame of reference at the time. As my frame of reference has increased, my drawings have changed to include possibly more finer details about the individuals that I'm drawing.
Okay, so let's do the last one. And the last one is everybody.
Yep, everybody. And I finished this drawing a few months ago, but to me, it seemed so busy that, I didn't post it and share it on social media until very recently. And you can see Targ, he's in between Ra and Chica over there on the right side of Ra.
Is this Targ here?
That's Targ, yeah. He's in charge of the security of the Council of Eight and this corner of the galaxy. He's a very, very busy guy. He has no emotions.
The short gray.
He is actually a tall gray. Zark is a short one, and I know it doesn't look that way in this drawing.
So
yeah, Zark is a short gray. He's from the Pleiades star system. I don't know where where Targ is from. But he's very dry.
Left side.
Very, very dry.
This is Zark on the left side.
Yeah, which is why he has no color on him. It's because he's just so flat. But, I try to capture the feel of all of these different beings, and they're all very, very different. And trying to put it in a cohesive drawing was extremely difficult, and that's why to me it seems so busy.
So the security guy is the guy on the far right.
Next to the mantis being, yes. So if I go in clockwise order from the bottom, Ort is down at the bottom. He's pretty easy to recognize. And then to the left of him is a D.
Right.
Then you've got Arna, the blue avian. Then comes Zark. Then there's Ra, Targ, Chica, and finally Arla, who's the tall white. Okay, and the empty chair, the empty seat that Ort is gesturing towards, that's actually the open invitation for humanity to take a seat at that table.
Ah,
yes, we are invited to participate as equals.
So go from Arla's on the right, right?
Arla is on the right. Yes, she is the tall white with the blue eyes.
Right, Arla is there, and the one directly above Arla is.
It's a mantis being. That's Chica.
That's Chica. Okay.
And you can see Shiva as an orb. She's right between Ra and Targ. There's an orb above her there. Yeah, because that's how she normally appears when she's in the Council of Eight. At least that's what Kevin told me.
So Targ is the shortest gray?
Targ is actually a tall gray. I know they're backwards in this drawing. Zark is the short gray, and Targ is the tall one.
Okay, so who's the one with the beanie on his head?
That's Zark.
That's what I thought. So Targ is the other one.
Targ is the other one, yes.
Okay, so tell us more about Targ.
Targ is very dry. Very, very dry. Now, I drew him with a smile in the portrait that I drew of him because even though he's very dry, he feels really nice. And he's a very busy guy. He's all over the place. In the original portrait that I drew of him, you know, he's coming in through a rainbow portal because he's just all over the place. He comes across very serious, very no nonsense. And again, that is the only experience that I've had with him is when I drew him. And the same goes with Arna and Arla. All the rest of them, the four of them, and Shiva, I've had experiences with, you know, that weren't just limited to when I drew them.
So Chica, the mantis, is your favorite?
Yeah, we have a very, very, I want to say intimate relationship, but that doesn't, I'm talking about energetically, psychically intimate relationship. There is a closeness between us that I don't feel with any other being that I have ever met. And I have drawn portraits for other people and I've met other beings. And Chica, it's almost like we share, like we're family. And
how many of these beings do you remember from a past life of the 8?
Of the 8, when I met them, when I saw them as a group in that memory that I had that I shared with you about remembering making a contract, choosing to work with them, they were all there. So the council of So
you knew all of them from a past life?
Yeah. And I suspect that I have worked closer with some of them in other lives. And because that's what was necessary at that time. So in this lifetime, it's, you know, Chica's leading and then Ort and
so if you isolated your memories to, let's say you never had your current life, but you had that previous life with them, which one, you know, in other words, Chica wouldn't be your favorite because
it would be Arla.
Arla.
Yeah, and I didn't even have to think about it.
So why Arla is your favorite from that past? Or okay, when I asked you about your past life, I sort of meant which one did you know the best, or not necessarily that's your favorite, but that you had the most experience with. That's really, I guess, was the question.
I haven't really explored that. I can tell you that Arla it's the same Arla now that was in the life that I am getting a sense of. In other words, she lives a lot longer than a human. And I don't believe that I was human at the life that I'm referring to.
You were Anunnaki.
No, I was something else altogether. I can't put my finger on it. I was
So,
not, oh,
okay,
maybe
so
I was a tall white.
okay, let's back up.
Okay, that's what it was.
Let's
Yes.
back up for a second. How many lifetimes do you remember?
What's been happening lately, okay, is I don't think of them as past lives because everything is happening all at once. So I visualize myself in the center of a sphere, and all of the lives that, if you want to look at it in linear terms, all of the lives that I've ever experienced are on the surface of the sphere, and from the center, I can access any one of them, and I can do that.
Hold on, stop for a second.
Yeah,
So, um, right now, when you access one of your other lives,
yeah.
how do you ever get the sense when you access one of them that if you stay there too long, you won't go back here?
Um, I've noticed that during meditation, yes. I sort of get stuck in that story, and there's this, other aspect of my consciousness that says that's not good for you. It's going to be too distracting. It's going to alter the path of this life, and so not having too much information is going to keep me focused on what I'm supposed to do here and not get distracted. There's a reason why I'm here. There's a reason why I don't remember certain things. That was part of the agreement so that I could maintain this really sharp focus on this person that I am now.
So vipassana, my understanding of vipassana, based on solely on your description of it, is that it's, or in a little bit of somebody else, it's totally focused awareness on any given object or moment or whatever. It's a focus. You're trying to focus.
Yes,
Yes.
it starts with focusing on one's breath, just in and out of the, not changing anything, just allowing the breath to be what it is. And that actually evolves into beginning to feel other parts of the body, the physical body, and observing those without wanting to change anything. And as this awareness sharpens, the body begins to feel like it's dissolving. It's no longer solid. And when that begins to happen, memories, if you want to look at them that way, information that is stored in chunky physical form gets easier to access. Those frequencies get easier to access. It's no longer locked in a muscle, or how sometimes we store trauma in specific parts of our body. So when that gets cleared up, and it takes a lot of work. I mean, I don't mean to make it sound like it's easy. I'm 25 years meditating. So in any case, once this baggage, trauma, negativity, heavy stuff gets let go of, basically dissolves, other things begin to show up, like memories of past experiences. And what happens to me is I begin to perceive a different reality through the eyes of the being that I am experiencing during meditation. In other words, I'm still me, but I'm no longer Aurora. I'm whoever that being is whose eyes I'm looking through and experiencing that reality.
And so, how many lives have you, when you started meditating 25 years ago to this very moment, how many other lives have you accessed?
Countless.
Just ballpark, 10,
Oh,
20, 50,
geez.
100?
Sometimes they go by so fast, and I recognize them as lives. Hundreds. Details. During meditation, I would have to say maybe 10.
Let me ask the question again in a different way.
Sure.
How many of those lives that you have access to have you spent any time recently in detailed understanding of them? How, if you had to get a number for those lives, the ones that you've spent lots of time in, how many would you say then?
I would say 3. In really great detail. Yeah, 3.
Okay, so one of them is the life you had with the Council of 8, yes?
No, it's not. Actually, the 3 that I accessed were all 3 of them were human.
Okay, and were you on Earth for these three?
Yes, it was different times. One of them that I accessed, I was a man. It was during the First World War. I was French. I was not a fighter. I was an artist. And going to war and leaving my beautiful wife and children behind was absolutely devastating because I knew I was going to die.
Did you get a sense of when this life was?
This was during the First World War, near the beginning.
World War One.
Yeah, World War One. Yeah.
At the beginning of that. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and give us the other two lives.
The other one was. This was in New York. I would want to say it was 19th century, the later part of the 1800s. And I was a clerk. And I lived in a really bad neighborhood. I actually did research on this. I forget the name of the neighborhood, but this neighborhood did exist. And I did research on this, and this place actually did exist. It was a really bad neighborhood, and I had a room in this lady's home who she had a few rooms that she rented out to other young men who were not married. She was an older lady, and she cooked for us. We had to do our own laundry. She wouldn't do the laundry. It was a little more expensive than normal, I remember, because I didn't make a lot of money, but I liked it because it was right across the street from where I used to work, or where I worked. I was a clerk in, it felt like a lawyer's office. And in that life, I actually died in a robbery. As I'm getting out of work to go home, this man just stabbed me out of the blue in my liver, I guess.
Oh, and he robbed you.
Yeah. I didn't have any money because I was broke. I mean, I had very little money, let's put it that way. And of course, I didn't carry large amounts of cash with me to begin with because, that was stupid. So I didn't have much with me and I died. And I remember thinking to myself, gosh, what a waste. This is nonsense. How nonsensical to die in this way. How absurd. That's the word. Absurd.
So he killed you for your money.
Yeah. And there wasn't even any of it to speak of.
And a third life?
Oh, gosh. I can't remember it right away. I know there were three of them. Give me a moment to see if I can
take your time.
Pick it up again. Again, if I can't experience what I'm not the vibration of. I remember there were more than two, let's put it that way. And I picked three because I know there is another one. And if I really stop and think about it, I'm sure that I will remember it. Gosh, what was it? Okay, you know what? I'll remember it tonight as I fall asleep, I'm sure.
So that's fine.
I can't remember right now. These two I did spend a lot of time in, and I revisited afterwards because I was curious about what actually happened.
Chica's your favorite. You had a past life with all of them or most of them?
The Council of Eight has been around for a long time. In fact, Ra, I was at a channeling that Kevin Briggs did where he channeled Ort and Ra. And there were a number of us there from this group, this exo-conscious group that we all meet together once a week. And Ra went around the room and told us that he recognized our souls. And when he introduced himself as, I am Ra, I am Anunnaki, it was like my body rang like a bell. It's like, this dude resonates profoundly to my core. So I've known Ra for a very, very, very long time. It feels that way, like we've been around for a long time. The other ones have been around, but not necessarily as the beings they are now. In other words, Arla was not always a tall white. She has had other lives, but the vibe that brings us all together is this intention to help advance, to help others discover who they are, to help them advance in some way on a mass scale. So we're talking, working with civilizations is what I'm saying.
And do you have experiences with other ETs besides the Council of Eight and Shiva?
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell us about those.
Well, after I drew the Council of Eight, somebody who watched another interview that I gave on YouTube said that, she was contacted by a hybrid named Henry. And Henry told her to get a hold of me and asked me to draw his portrait. This is somebody I'd never met. Now, interestingly enough, the week before I heard from her, I was out on my balcony doing my own little C5, and I connected with a hybrid named John. And I asked John who else was there with him, and he said Henry. So when I saw her message about Henry told me to contact you, I figured, okay, this is the real deal. And so I connected with Henry, with this hybrid, and I drew a portrait of him for her, and she was blown away. I wrote to her the message that Henry had for her. I don't remember what that is now, but and that's usually what happens when I give messages to other people. I don't remember what I said, but I posted that on Facebook along with the story. I left out all the personal information of her, of course, but people who saw that were like, "Whoa, this is so cool! Can you draw one for me? Draw one for me!" And people started asking me to draw. And so I started doing that, and the beings that I connected with, it was just basically a shot in the dark. It's like, okay, this is this person. I don't know who they are, but if there's a being who wants to connect or communicate or has a message, I'm open. As long as you're nice and not self-serving, we can play. And so soon enough, there was like, on the one side, I had this crowd of beings from other places that were very excited about connecting with people. And I was getting this line of people on this other side who were asking me to draw drawings for them of, portraits of these beings. And so I did that for a while, and it takes a while, a couple of weeks takes for, to draw a portrait. So people kept, adding on to this list that kept growing, and I got overwhelmed.
And it got stressful.
Yeah, it's like, okay, you know what? I'm enjoying connecting with these beings, but if I'm not going to get to draw a portrait for you until a year from now, it's like I don't want to promise that I'm going to do it. It might not be relevant for you at that point.
So what kind of being was Henry?
Henry was a hybrid. He was a human gray hybrid. And I have seen his ship doing like the flash bulbs. When I connect with him telepathically, and I get confirmation of he's right between Sirius and Orion's belt in the same place. That always shows up. The flashing shows up there. And sometimes I connect with him telepathically, and when I do, there's always a flash.
So he's a Essassani?
No, actually, Essassani are further down the line. He is, I think, second generation.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's funny you bring up the Essassani, because that is probably the civilization that I feel the closest connection with. I feel close to Chica as an individual, but the Sassani civilization there's part of me there right now.
So you're closer to them than you are to the Anunnaki?
Oh, for sure.
Because you were an Anunnaki, right?
Yes, I'm a number of different things. It depends on the frequency that I choose to embody. People say that, I'm Pleiadian or I'm Arcturian to the exclusion of everything else.
Right.
But I believe that as infinite creators and infinite beings, we can connect with infinite aspects of ourselves. And I think that's why I am able to connect with so many different beings. I was able to draw these portraits for these people, is because I don't have an attachment to a specific identity. I'm not even attached to being Aurora, which is probably why I can go to other lives and experience them. But I have no attachment to any specific identity.
So what's the name of the race that Henry's a part of?
Hybrid.
Just a hybrid.
That's all I got. Yeah.
Okay, so who else have you connected with as far as ETs go?
As far as ETs go, Henry was one of them. Before I started drawing drawings for people, I started drawing, connections that I had made. I made a connection with a gray reptilian hybrid. She was really, really sweet. She worked on a barge that collected biomatter.
Did she have a name? Does she have a name?
Yeah, her name was Contactee.
Okay.
Yeah, I have drawings of her.
Do you have them available now?
Oh, absolutely.
Can you share one?
I will try to. Let me see if I can get in my folder
See if
here.
you can make it share.
Yeah, I'm going to try to do that. They're actually on my Google Drive in the folder called Personal Connections. Let's see, I'm going to get her up here. And I'm going to try to share. Bonk.
Well, I don't see why you shouldn't be able to. If I can do it, you should be able to.
Yeah, let's see. Do you see anything?
I do.
Do you see her? She's wearing like a red scarf.
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe you mentioned her on with you when you were speaking with Mr. Gray.
Yeah. She is so happy and so vibrant, and it is so totally does not go with the environment that she's in because it's all dead things. And she's on this ship with other reptilians who are not built like the Draco. There's different kinds of reptilians. These guys are more like Saurian. They have a different hip joint. They have these kind of elongated faces, and I try to capture that in her drawing, but it's hard to.
She's a hybrid between
gray
and a gray.
Yeah. And the Greys do this a lot, and I got confirmation of this from other sources as well. They create hybrids in order to have a more, I guess, intimate connection with other species, and these hybrids sort of work as in-betweens, to make deals and so on. The Greys are obsessed with DNA. They can't have enough of it, and so that's what she does on this ship.
And she's the ship collects biomatter and then trades it. Yes.
Yeah, they synthesize the DNA out of it, and they exchange the DNA for technology, mostly with the Greys.
So they collect biomatter.
Yeah.
Pull DNA from the biomatter, do stuff with the DNA, and then trade that for technology.
Yeah, they synthesizes in a way so that it's, I guess, to me it seemed like she meant clean, although I don't know exactly what that means in terms of technology. They clean up the DNA and then they trade it so that it's workable, so that whoever they trade it with doesn't have to do these extra steps to prepare it for whatever it is that they're going to do with it.
So when you connected with Contactee, how did you connect with her? What was the first?
I actually connected with her before I drew her. There was just this really sparky energy that I felt, there was this being that I got a sense of, and I started to draw her. And as soon as I drew her eyes, that was it. It's like, oh, there you are. And everything else started coming into focus. And if you look in the background, it kind of looks like DNA strands.
Yes.
Around her, because that's what she does.
The helix.
She's one of the ones. There's others like her. It's this humongous ship that stinks. This is the only time I have experienced smell.
So
it stinks so bad.
What other ETs have you connected with?
So before that, I connected with the Arcturian teacher. This was a blue Arcturian who taught me what I call Arcturian Reiki, which started to manifest. Huh? Yes, I have a drawing of that as well. Let me see.
Show the drawing and then tell us about them.
All right, let's see. This one, her name is.
The drawing first and the talking and the description afterwards. That way people can stare at the drawing while you describe.
Let's see. There she is. Do you see her?
Not yet. There she is.
Okay.
Go ahead. You mentioned her.
This is Ava. And she is the Arcturian teacher who taught me how to manipulate energy. You probably heard this part in the interview that I did, that you watched. After the download that I had with all the symbols, it wasn't just my own energy that I could manipulate. I had this desire, this intent to, manipulate energy around me. And so she taught me how to manipulate energy in my body with my hands somehow, through energy that comes out of my hands. And so first I practiced on myself, but then my mom has fibromyalgia and a lot of chronic pains. And then I practiced on her. And the way that I experienced that, it was as if myself and Ava shared the same space. We were overlapped on top of each other, like our hearts were in sync. And even though our body shapes didn't fit exactly, we were one, as well as individuals. And she was the one who was doing all the movement. And I just basically relaxed in her showing me what to do. It reminded me of dancing on the top of my dad's shoes when I was little. Where he would lead me around and I felt really close, and it was, very, very sweet. And so after about 20 minutes of this, my mom was able to be pain-free for a couple of days afterwards. She couldn't believe it. She got up off the bed and she was like, holy cow, I don't have any pain.
So Ava is a gray?
No, she's an Arcturian. That was the best. She
Arcturian.
actually is the very, very first portrait that I drew of an ET, because it was during the time I was learning what I call Arcturian Reiki. I don't know what else to call it. But yeah, that was her, and she was very loving and very patient and very, very kind. And it was not like she was controlling me. She was showing me. And this attitude that she had, look, I'm showing you so that you can do it, you let her yourself. And
So
eventually she disappeared.
Did you ever do similar healing with your mom after that first time?
And I did it on my husband and on my son, and the same result. Unfortunately, it's temporary. It only lasts a couple of days, 3 days.
So which other ET beings have you connected with besides Ava and Okati?
So let's see here. Who was after that? Oh, talking about, let me stop sharing here, and I will show you how the Essassani is, excuse me, really near and dear to my heart. And you've probably seen this portrait too in that video. This is the opal Mona moonstone, or Mona opal moonstone, depending on, I don't know, my vibration. I call her those any one of those three names. And she is from the Sasani civilization. Now that is a self-portrait, but at the same time is a portrait of this being that feels like my daughter, who is from that civilization. And she relates to me as if she's my daughter. And the way I feel about her, it's as if she's my daughter. So she's probably way, way, way down the line, and we're somehow, genetically related. Otherwise, we wouldn't feel so familial, so to speak. But it feels like there's some aspect of myself. I want to say there's a body of mine that's Sasani, someplace there in stasis, and she is one of the technicians who is making sure that it remains viable until I come back. It's almost like I've taken a leave of absence to come here to do this.
Oh, no wonder you're so connected to Sasani. You are an
I am.
At least. And you're going back.
And I will, yes, I am going back. When I first saw Bashar, channeled by Daryl Anka, before he even spoke, I saw, a preview of his video, his documentary. Both my husband and I were like stunned. We know this guy. I mean, his face. Where do we know him from? It was like we knew him well, but we couldn't figure out where we knew him from. And then once I started to listen to his teachings, it's like, oh, I remember this from when I was a little kid, but there was nobody who would validate all of these things that I thought about. Time did not exist, and I was dreaming. Life is a dream. And oh man, it was so validating to hear him speak about those things. It's like, yes, I wasn't crazy. But, you know, it took 50 years to get to this place. But anyway.
So who else have you connected with?
Let me take a look at who else I got here. So I'm going to bring up something that you didn't see in that last video.
Oh, good.
Because this, you know, this will be new. There's other stuff. Let's see here. I'm
You're
going to
stop sharing.
Sharing, and then I'm going to share again. And here we go.
It's always good to have something that Mr. Gray doesn't have.
Yeah. This one got a lot of interaction on Facebook when I posted her. Her name is Ophelia. And she's a connection that I made for myself. This is not something that I drew for somebody else. Now, her face doesn't look in the way that I've portrayed her. She looks more like a horseshoe crab. And she's got these, they look like tentacles, but they're not tentacles. That's actually, there's brain matter in those extensions, or whatever you want to call them.
Okay.
She's very sensitive. Her entire head, and including the frontal part. The frontal part is almost like a sonar receiving. She's very sensitive to frequencies. She lives in a liquid environment, a fluid environment that is not water. I want to say methane, but it's not that either. And her blood is not iron based. It's, I want to say copper based, but it's not that either. And she is an aquatic being. In other words, she swims and she moves her body from side to side. So not like a dolphin that goes up and down, but side to side, more like a fish, like a shark, I guess. And she lives on this planet. I have no idea where it is. I really was not able to connect. There was so much stuff that she shared that I had no frame of reference for, at that time at least. That, you know, this was the best that I could do to understand some of the information that she was sharing. The part that I did get was how sensitive she is, how the perception, the telepathic communication, and there's other ways, the frequencies that they make sounds that they pick up with these, you know, extensions of their brain matter. Some people have asked me to draw her the way that she really looks, but it would look so foreign and bizarre that I wanted to portray her in the way that I actually feel her, where she's very elegant and pretty and exotic looking. And so I try, you know, she's got 6 eyes or 8 eyes, I forget how many I drew in the picture, to sort of communicate the horseshoe crab vibe that she has.
How did you connect with her?
I was in bed one night right before bedtime, and I decided, you know what, I want to draw something. And so the way I start is I choose what color do I want to use. And I chose purple. And so I started drawing purple eyes. And I was like, whoa, all of a sudden, the rest of it came, boom, in one instance. And this is how I know that it's not my imagination, because when I use my imagination, you know, I have to think about the things and they have to make sense in whatever it is that I'm creating in my imagination. In my imagination, you know, my conscious mind is involved. So when I get these flashes of concepts, like boom, like a thought ball or an entire image, an entire picture, I know that that's just something that I received intuitively. And it's about time for me to order pizza.
All right. Well, do you have any other beings that you'd like to?
Let's see. Who would I want to close with? Well, sure. Let's do this one.
And then you can go and order your pizza.
Yeah. All right. Here we go. So this is Pete, and it's spelled P-E-T-E. ET, like peat moss. And he literally came through a portal. And that's why all of the, sort of swirling patterns all around him. He is an ant person. His civilization lives underground. And at the time that I connected with him, all I could really see was his head. It's like he didn't come all the way through. It's like, I'm not coming through all the way because I got to go back and we're leaving. His people are going deeper, at least that's how I perceived it, deeper underground, or distancing themselves, I should say, from what's happening on the surface right now, because it's pretty chaotic and it's going to get even more chaotic, and they just don't need to be a part of it. Now, I drew a lot of, or I tried to at least, make references to Hopi symbols, the Hopi Indians who talked about, or Indians, I shouldn't say that, what a terrible expression, the Native Americans, the Hopi Native Americans, they have a lot of stories about ant people who came to help them. Right. Now, I'm not aware of that, but I wanted to at least bring that up, that, I'm not sure that, probably because I brought it up, Pete has got to be, his ancestors might have been in contact with those people. Otherwise, it would not have popped in. It wouldn't have made any sense. It wouldn't have been connected, vibrationally in any way. So, but that's a suspicion. I can't really verify that. So I just wanted to bring that up, and as a indication that these beings have lived, cohabitated with us on this planet for a very, very long time. And they've interacted with us. We have just forgotten about it. And then we have forgotten that we've forgotten. And then we've destroyed everything that we would remind us of it. And I'm not sure why we did that. But, we know other species who live on this planet. We've had other relationships with other beings in the past. It's just that in the past couple of 100 years, it seems we have gone just nuts and have separated ourselves from the vibration of this planet and everything that is, I guess, in sync with it. Western civilization right now is very out of sync with humanity, and that's why we are no longer able to perceive these other beings who are in sync with nature, in sync with the planet, in sync with our humanity. Our humanity is of, planet Earth, and we are out of sync with our humanity, which is why so many inhuman things are happening right now. All the violence and everything. But that's just my opinion. That's just.
So before you order the pizza, is there anything you're doing presently that you want to promote, a book or a service or anything that you'd like to tell the people about before we finish this?
There is a message that I have been getting a lot lately from these beings who connect with me, and that is that telepathic communication is very important. And I find it very interesting that as I'm getting these messages, telepathy is starting to be a topic of discussion in mainstream media and in Congress, for that matter. So that's how I know that this is indeed a genuine message that I'm getting, because I'm getting confirmation elsewhere. Learning to communicate telepathically, or at least being open to the idea, that is the first step. Being open to the idea that anybody, any one of us, can communicate telepathically with each other and other beings is the first step. Part of the reason for this, it's actually communicating telepathically is the first step towards open contact. These beings want to connect with us, and that way we can get accustomed to the idea that they even exist in a way that is much more relaxed and comfortable for us. In other words, you're not faced with a being from another planet landing on the White House lawn and you go, oh my God, this is crazy. Where's this from? By the time they do that, we would have already, as a collective consciousness and as individuals, become accustomed to at least some level of their frequency. So when they do appear, it'll be more like a recognition than, you know, an abrupt surprise and shift in our paradigm. It's like, oh,
Sure.
I know you from somewhere, even if it's subconscious, even if this communication happens at a subconscious level at dream time, they will not communicate with you unless you give specific permission for that.
Stop sharing.
So, you know, if you want to, if that resonates with people, I really encourage you to just, you know, say it to yourself or out loud. I am open to this type of communication. I want to learn. I really want to meet beings from other places, and I want to expand my frame of reference and all of those things that you want, and do it from a place of kindness and compassion, and be genuine.
Stop sharing.
Oh, sorry. Anyway, yeah, but that's the message that I have from all of them. They want to meet. They want to meet. They want to meet us as equals. They want us to stand in our own power and be human in the way that we're meant to be human. You know.
Is there any other message you'd like to give the audience about your services, your website?
That was my service.
Okay. All right. Well,
I mean, I'm on Facebook. If anybody wants to look at my drawings, they are all on Facebook. On Facebook, I have a link to my Google Drive where you can download any of them that you want. They're free. I don't charge anything. These are meant to be shared.
If somebody wanted to reach out to you, is Facebook the easiest way, or is there an easier way?
It would be. It would be. Yeah. People can't friend me unless they're friends of friends, because that's kind of how I try to keep you know, I've been getting some requests from interesting characters, but you can message me. You can, you know, anybody can message me on Facebook, and it's easier to do it that way. If I give you my email, it's galacticfamilyportraits@gmail.com. But if you don't remember that, you can just look me up on Facebook. I'm the only Aurora Belcea there.
Okay, well, let me stop the recording. Thank you for being on the show.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for having me. This was fun.
If you ever want to come back, let me know.
Absolutely. I definitely do.
Here we go. We're stopping.
Bye.